Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Rufai Husseini. I'm a thought leader, transient economist. I deliberately said that word, and somebody that is passionate about the growth and development of Africa. You can call me an Africanist, and most importantly, a student of history. And I'm going to be doing this 1 hour video about how Africa can be free. And I'm going to be doing three things. I'm going to be plotting an historical antecedents to the problems and the challenges of Africa, and then looking further to how Africa can be free by taking its resource from deep within. I put it to you today that the problem with Africa is multifaceted. The problem with Africa is multifaceted, but it is a multifaceted cocktail of disaster, destruction, and it is aided by Africans themselves. The truth has to be told that whatever Africa has become today has been a mutually assured destruction. And what do I say that? A mutually assured destruction aided by African people themselves. And except Africa truly unites, then the continent will constantly go through this mutually assured destruction. And when a continent constantly goes through mutually assured destruction, then it becomes a pariah continent. Hence the crisis we have today. Why do I say so? I say so because all the colonialists have had their way in cahoot and in partnership with African actors. And let me go back historical times. The very first time the colonialists started to build anything of a slave trade structure was in Bon's Island in the 1600s. Bon's Island was a place off the coast of Gambia that the colonialists first set foot. And when they set foot there, they built a structure of trade there in cahoot with the black people there. And they were shipping people abroad. So before the major slave trade became very popular, way back to 1600, Bon's Island was the order of the day. And it was done in consonance with the Africans. Another very important aspect of this is the works of Madame Tinubu. Madame Tinubu was a big slave trader in the 1800s in Lagos. You'll be amazed that Madame Tinubu, in consonance and in cahoot with some of our partners, were constantly taking people out of Lagos in slave trade and fueling the slave trade. All the people that were part of this were kings, were leaders, were Africans that are supposed to fight for their people, but they felt that nothing can be done, so they sold their people in slave trade. But we forget that right before that time, there was an option of trading, so trading wasn't a problem. The Benin Empire in the 1500s had traded with the Portuguese. It was said they were at par. And that's why when the British colonialists came, they saw that the Benin Empire developed so much because they traded with the Portuguese. And that's why it was difficult for them to have a quick conquest of the Benin Empire. But all through history, Africans have always aided and abetted this robbery, historical robbery. I put it to you that Africa cannot succeed except Africans emancipate themselves from mental slavery. And that's why Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah said something very profound in the 60s when they came together to start the African Union. He said, I am not here to talk about unity. I am here to remind all of us the dire consequences of a continent of Africa not uniting. But today, we don't still know those dire consequences. We don't still appreciate those dire consequences. And let me tell you something, just after he said that, the very flashpoint happened. Congo was taken. I take you back historically. The Berlin Conference, late 1800s. Congo was knew nothing about the Congo, but because founders to Berlin called all of them and said, let's talk about this our conquest continent. So when they did, they ceded Congo to them. Congo had always been dominated by the Belgians. In fact, Kinshasa today was called Leopoldville. Every part of Congo, Belgium. They fought for independence. Patrice Emery Lumumba fought after fight. The Belgians still saying that Congo was to the Congolese out of magnanimity. And Patrice Emery Lumumba know that our blood, sweat, and tears. And when they fought for, but Congo was still dominated by the Belgians because fellow Congolese were used in the plot to scuttle Congo. They saw the mineral resource from every area, from Kisangani to every area of Congo. And what did they do? They used fellow Congolese. Who did they use? They used somebody that Patrice Emery Lumumba trusted, that was still in there. The president was used. Kasavubu was used. Other political actors in Congo were used. And what did they do with Congo? They destroyed Congo. They used the likes of Katanga, fanning the embers of secessionists. They used to say they were going to scuttle the pride of Africa. That was the Congo. And you see, there is a saying all over the world today that wherever Congo ends, wherever logic ends, Congo begins. You know why they say that? They say that because it has aided the dislogical disposition of Congo. The Congolese that are supposed to stand for their country and win their country back from this scuttlement, as it were, of this have been and have destroyed their country even more. So Congo is sick today because the Congolese have made it sick. And when they were done with Congo, what did they use? They put in another stooge of theirs. And that's why we should watch it. Because these people do not colonize Africa in isolation of Africans. Africa in partnership and in concordance with Africans. And please, let's be careful. What did they do afterwards? They used a Congolese stooge to run the country. They got in Mobutu Sese Seko Kukungenu was a banker. A man that was really, really, really about himself alone. And this was the man that had to say everything. And let me tell you something, because I had interest here. The CIA had interest here. So what did they use? Mobutu Sese Seko Kukungenu was a banger. They used him because so they put him on there and they supported him all through the years. We all know the story. What became of Congo? This man became richer than Congo as a country. Finally, he was pushed out because the Americans were no longer excited about him. And they had done what they wanted to do. It was still the same man they used to set the way after they killed Patrice Emery Lumumba. But how did they do it? They killed him in consonance with Congo. Three things that make it easier for colonialism. Number two, they see and they use it to tap into they start to destroy and scuttle us. Next story I'm going to tell, you're going to see part of the story I'm going to Uganda. Uganda came up in, it was bustling, but they saw the element of tribalism. What was the element of tribalism? It was there in Uganda and parts of the north. So pretty much the first leadership, tribalism, palpable result. The kingdom was left bare, constantly having fights and squabbles with the other party, and these parties were having fights. So obviously the first leader of Uganda had fights with the king because obviously they were not tribalism. Tribalism was the order of the day. The fight was palpable between the king and Milton Obote. What happened? The British saw this. They had interest in Uganda. They knew that they could tap out of Uganda's rich resource. What did they do? The first thing they did was to fester on the fight of tribalism between Milton Obote and the king of Uganda, Bugse. They do instrument and another just like they used Joseph Desiree that finally became Joseph Mobutu Sese Mobutu. They used Idi Amin Dada, and they used to scuttle Milton Obote, push the Obote out because they saw the vestiges of tribalism. And once they exploited it, they magnified the vestiges of tribalism and they scuttled the government. What did Idi Amin Dada do? Came in, destroyed the government. All these people that they normally use are people of grandeur of illusions. So if the British was to use a very good stock and to regenerate Africa, if they truly care, or the Western world, it would have been good. But they'll never use that. They'll always use somebody from the bad stock. Take, for instance, young guy in the military, Joseph Mobutu, in the case of Congo. In the case of Uganda, who did they use? They used a young man in the military, Idi Amin Dada, grandeur of illusion. And he destroyed the economy. You cannot give an economical meat to tigers, to disdainful tigers. And that's what was done. The economy of Uganda was heavily scuttled and destroyed. And nothing could be written off the economy of Uganda. Why? Because the British, the Americans, and everybody in the West that had interest in that country had come in to take their day. And why? Because Africans were not uniting. Because they were still using Africans to be able to perpetrate this vice. It was same Africans they used. It was same Africans they took out of the continent. We all know what happened. Said the bulk of the and that was the packet of them that fell. Saving, calling the needs of the economy. You're going to get responded out. We as Africans, we were accomplices in our own destruction. A lot of people, Professor Lumumba, that are always on the dinner with Professor Lumumba. They're always on, but I mean the letter while they're there on the dinner table. Professor Lumumba, the grand scheme of things, Africans are not there on the dinner table. They don't matter. The meal, made the meal, there, part of the table, but they're seated in a corner, and they're told that, hey, sign your own death warrant, and they sign, because we do this in close consonance with Africa. I'll take you way back to the 1800s in Lagos. This Lagos you know today, coming. Two kings had a big squabble, Oba Kosoko and Akitoye. Both of them had a big squabble. One of them had supported massively what was happening as regards slave trade. One of them was supporting Madam Tinubu in her slave trade. squabble. When Akitoye was pushed out, he went and he called the British in to come fight for him. There were accounts by PLG, Pa Lamulo Davis, a member of the British military, also a great man, in that time, in Nigeria, from the Sierra Leonean extraction, the people they call the Saro. Sally Bonnet. Sally Bonnet was King Danzo's daughter. King Danzo's daughter that was sent to live with Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria liked. They pelted Lagos with bombs because two kings were fighting and they couldn't settle their squabble. In fact, the name Agidingbi today came with those bombs on Lagos. Why? Because two kings couldn't. And what did they do? They called the British in. After the British won back the kingdom and the Kisokas were pushed out and they went to Ekpe, guess what happened? The British, and on that ship docked in the Lagos docks, the Prometheus, they told the king then that you will have to secede Lagos to become a British colony. The king struggled and said, Mi ò fi ìjọba mi tọrẹ. That means I'm not giving you my kingdom as a gift. But the British said, we had met our own part of the bargain. This will meet your own part, giving the entire Lagos to us. Lagos became a colony because of the squabble and the fight between two British kings in Lagos. Yet again, rivalry, tribalism, and graft and fight and squabble became the order of the day, how we invited the colonial masters in to be able to destroy and plunder. And Lagos continued to be that colony for many years until we gained independence, or until we started the move to independence. That was when that ceased. And you know how the British came in? They came in through Lagos. Before you knew it, they conquered other parts. The first thing they did was to amalgamate Lagos and the Southern Protectorate in 19. They put Lagos part of the Southern Protectorate, and in 1914, after they had conquered Bida, Kano, all they did was to amalgamate the Southern Protectorate in 1914, so that it's easier for them to govern our nation. How did they come into Nigeria? They came in through Lagos. How did they come in through Lagos? Because of the fightings of two African kings, Kosoko and Akitoye. We as Africans have always aided the colonialists in Africa. Thank you so much.